Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. I'm your host, Emmet, and with me tonight we have Chris, Kev, and Dom back again twice this week. How are we, lads?
Good, mate.
Good. Feeling privileged twice in a week. Bloody hell.
Yeah. Say, Chris, I've probably not seen you since I spooned you in Liverpool.
Well, I'm still recovering from that.
I've woken up next to some strange things in Liverpool. It was the first time I've woken up next to a man.
Well, it was good fun.
So it is no transfer knowledge. Pretty much like Twitter. Nobody knows anything. We're here to talk about Henderson and Fabinho tonight. So while Gav and Keith were on last night, Twitter was alight with rumours that Henderson had accepted. Liverpool could say he could go. It was 10 million. Today it was 20 million. Dom, I'll come to you first. Does he go?
I'd like to think not, from just from a Liverpool fan point of view, but I think it's one of them. Like, he's done so much legwork for the LGBTQ, and he's done loads of legwork with other things, and it just feels wrong. But at the same time, you also think, if you're in a situation in a job and someone says to you, there's 4 times the salary, but you're going to do the same job, and you are going to look like Pele compared to these bums that you're going to be playing with, you're going to do it, aren't you? Unfortunately for me, I'd like to think not, but I do think he'll go, because it just feels like it's sort of the end is near for him anyway, and I think 2 years left on his contract. I just can't see us riding that out anyway. Maybe it's a year too early. I'd like to see him give it a year for the new signings to bed in and things, but you've also got to think about the reshuffle in the midfield. His game time is going to be very limited, and I don't think he wants to settle for that.
Yeah. We were talking beforehand, Chris, before we came on, in terms of what's been tweeted or what's been reported, and we spoke about his playing time being limited. Do you think that might be a factor in his decision?
Could be, yeah, because maybe he doesn't want to be a squad player. Maybe he wants to be starting more regularly. I mean, he will be the first Liverpool captain that's been told to be a squad player and decided to piss off. So yeah. I mean, listen, the Twitter thing is just hilarious. I mean, it's how two realms of extreme anger or extreme sadness. I'm kind of in the middle of which was I'm a bit with Dom. I probably would have preferred this to be a year later when the new signs are settled in, and then, do you know what? Fair play, off you go. In terms of the morality side of it, which there's been a lot of talk about it. Ultimately, that's for Jordan Henderson to worry about, for Jordan Henderson to wear, and whatever impact that has on how he's seen in his legacy, that's up to him. I could talk of him as a Liverpool fan. I think he's been great for Liverpool. I don't get the vitriol of some people who just despise him. I'm loving the latest theory that it's a PR stunt, which I think people think it's a PR stunt. Possibly need to look what PR is. The point of PR is to make yourself look good. If this is a PR stunt, then what you've basically allowed to happen over the last few weeks is to say, I, as Liverpool captain, do not want to play for Liverpool anymore. I want to go to Saudi Arabia because I'm going to get paid 4 times what I used to get paid, which will upset a lot of people because of other things I've stood up for in the past. But don't worry, I'm staying now. I'm not. Whatever way you square that isn't a good look. And ultimately, if it is a PR stunt, then you've just pissed everyone off for no reason. So I don't think it is a PR stunt. I think it's caught Liverpool off guard a little bit, because I don't think Liverpool expected both of these to go this summer. I think they're expecting both to go next summer. So I'm intrigued to see how Liverpool pivot on this. I mean, I've been messaging Kev, because Kev obviously is a bit more annoyed with it than I am. I'm like, just embrace the madness now and see what happens.
Did he pull out his homegrown chart?
He did. He's got I've introduced him to Google Sheets now, so he's got a spreadsheet in every now. We update it. It's brilliant.
Look, we're talking the money that he's gonna earn when he goes over there. 700,000 a week is ridiculous money. There's nobody worth that. Except Gav, maybe the hardest working man in podcasts. In terms of the actual fee, though, Kev, surely, like, if they want him, he's two years left on his deal. You see reports of them expecting him for a nominal fee or even for free. Unfortunately, you don't get, even the people with the most money in this world don't get anything for free.
That's why they have the money. They don't pay for it.
If he decides to go, what would you accept as an acceptable fee for him, given the length of time left on his deal? And look how important he is, regardless of whether he's on the pitch or not. I think he's a massively important player in the dressing room. With Milner gone, it's a lot of leadership gone. But if he decides to take the money, how much should we be accepting for him?
Well, I've seen the rumours today, anything from they want him for nothing to 10 million to double that, 20 million. How much is he worth to us right now, bearing in mind the fact that it's been sprung up, it's probably been sprung on the club with a few days' notice. There's no planning involved in this. The market is through the roof. Declan Rice going for 105 million is an absolute absurdity. And that just puts a number as to what an England international at 24 goes for, with potential to maybe get better. So Jordan Henderson at 33, leadership beyond belief. Manager wants him. If you're going to brand the club and want someone to come out and speak for the club, he's no better person to come and do it. If you want someone to come and promote your club to an English-speaking global audience with face recognition around the world because of his 12, 13 years at Liverpool, there's no better person to do it. You're willing to pay him 700 grand a week tax-free, which if he was matching that in the UK, he'd have to be on 1.4 million a week to earn the kind of money he's going to be earning in Saudi. And they're quibbling about paying a transfer fee for him. Get in the fucking bin, you absolute ball bags. If you want him, come and fucking pay the money. If you don't, off you fucking pop. It's as simple as that. He's got 2 years left in his contract. He's a homegrown player. He's captain of the club. And if you watch the Liverpool behind-the-scenes video from yesterday, because they released fuck all today, watch it from yesterday and watch the reaction to the players who are talking with him and who are interacting with him. And it's not reverence, but it's you know that he's the boss. He's the manager's voice around the club. If you've got a problem, you go to him.
He's the elder statesman, isn't he?
He's the senior pro. If you've got a problem, you tell him, and he goes to the boss. If the boss has a problem, he'll come to Henderson to come to you. And you go and replace that in the transfer market. Look around the market. If you're going to look at bringing in Premier League experienced players, homegrown players, right, aged over 22 years of age, go and find one. Go and tell me an English homegrown player who you'd want in the squad, and then I'll give you a transfer fee, and then you tell how much do you think Willock could cost? How much do you think Gallagher would cost? Or would you want him anywhere near a squad? No, and no, and no, and no again. You wouldn't. So at the end of the day, how much is Jordan Henderson worth to us? I put a figure of 50 million on Twitter this morning and got ridiculed for it. But the thing is, you go out and you have to go and replace not just him, his ability, his leadership, and the trust that the manager has in him to throw him into games with 30 minutes to go and shut a game down. To start a game where you need to keep it tight. He knows the system inside and out. He's tactically flexible, and he'll give you all he's got. His legs can't do what his mind wants him to do. In the position that he was in last year, he can't do that advanced 8 role anymore. But there were games last year when he didn't play that he was missed. And me and Chris, and I've done it with plenty of others, where we did post-match shows where he wasn't available, and the comments would come in, Mr. Jordan Henderson's there. Missed that leadership on the pitch. You missed that someone barking orders around the place to push people along. Go and replace that in the transfer market. Put a transfer figure on that.
We've seen it in the Telegram. We've seen it in WhatsApp groups where this game is screaming out for Henderson.
I've avoided all social media. I've avoided social media as much as I could. I've avoided Telegram as much as I could today. And I've avoided most other content creators today because I didn't want to be influenced by what they're saying about this deal. On a football level, this makes sense. He's 33 years of age, 2 years left in his contract. He's got absolutely no power in this situation whatsoever. He's got no control. It's up to the club to accept a reasonable fee for the player if he wants to leave. He can put in whatever transfer request he wants. It's not worth the paper it's written on. It doesn't matter. The club is in control of this situation. And if the club demand a fee of £20 million and the buying club aren't willing to meet that fee, then there is no transfer to happen. It's as simple as that. You go back and you play a year. If you don't like it, go and sit on the bench and go and play with the under 23s. Don't give a fuck. You're making an example now of him. That if you want to go down this road, you're telling this to Virgil van Dijk, to Mo Salah, to Andy Robertson, to Trent Alexander-Arnold, to every other senior player in the club. If you want to handle your transfer business in this fashion, where you just come a couple of days before we fly out to pre-season, and at the drop of a hat, you think you can just up sticks and leave. Sadio Mane did it the right way. He went to Klopp early and he told him, I want a new challenge. Klopp asked him to hold his horses for a bit, give us 6 months, and we'll find you a deal. And they literally let him go to Bayern Munich for what was a very fair price for what he was going to offer you. I think Jordan Henderson has handled this badly. I think, look, nobody could have predicted live football.
How do we know how he's handled it, though? Do we think that? Yeah.
We don't. This is the
thing. Do you think he's the type of person to go and ask to leave?
Yeah, I do. I think that
where he's supposedly heading, though. So whatever about going to Sunderland or going to Fulham or anywhere like that, is he the type to go and ask to go to Saudi? Do you think?
I feel like he's actually asked Klopp for some sort of advice, if I'm being honest with you. I don't feel like he'll have gone in and demanded to leave. I feel like he'll have gone in and said, listen, this opportunity might never come back again. I can go and feed kids for generations and generations and generations in my family. Not just a couple of generations, by the way. And yes, he earns this much money in England. Yes, he does. That argument is nonsense because, like I said earlier, if we get offered 4 times the money in any job that we do, we take it. And, you know, it's just unfortunate. I think the way it's handled in terms of if it was somewhere else, we probably wouldn't be sitting here having this argument because of the morals that we believed Jordan Henderson has. The problem you've got with that is they're not worth a carrot nowadays. It kind of feels like they get a piece of paper put in front of them and it says, listen, you've got to be the face of this. And it looks like that's what's happened. For him to go against everything, it just doesn't seem very Jordan Henderson-like from what we look like we know.
I also feel if we'd been a bit more smart in the market in terms of how we've replaced the squad, which I know Kev's going to jump down my throat for this in a minute, but, you know, before that we'd added one midfielder, which was Thiago. So I'm not saying we should have added 3 or 4 every summer, but, you know, we all said, and it's not even hindsight, most summers going, probably could do someone in the midfield just to refresh it a little bit. And it got to 2-3 years down the line. And last summer, we're all going, fuck me, we need a couple here, you know. So because we've left it so late now, 2 players who we were looking just to be squad options next year, we're now going, oh, fuck, we haven't got squad options. We were expecting the squad options that we could actually rely on to stay fit. So I think that's where people have got a bit of trepidation because it's a bit more now really to know. I mean, Christ, this is almost like the early 2000s where, you know, Liverpool are bringing 6-7 players and we go, fuck me, I hope it all works. And I think that's what people are concerned about is once you get above 5 signings, it's pretty rare you buy more than 5 signings and your season goes fairly smoothly. I think the last one that happened was probably the Mourinho 04-05 side. But in general, you know, we're going to be in for a very difficult season, I would say. Just because even if all these players are brilliant, they're all going to take time to settle in. And that's where you kind of wanted that bit of experience, which is what you want to settle them in.
That's the one thing that concerns me is that, so when obviously it was a couple of weeks ago, the rumours around Henderson first came up, when Gerrard first made the move. And I wasn't overly concerned. If he decides to go, he decides to go. He owes us absolutely nothing. But like Kev said, if you want him, you pay. He's not in his last year of his deal. He has 2 years to go on his deal. So if you want him, you pay for him. What's caught me a little bit on the hop was Fabinho now being thrown into the mix.
That's
now,
what I feel.
And I think I said on Telegram or WhatsApp earlier on that Fab would be a step too far for me. I do think you were saying that having experience around the place. So if you go and you get money, or I think we have the money. I'm hoping what's happening now is the stalling on this whole deal is we're trying to get our ducks in a row, because the last thing you want is to get rid of Henderson and everybody knows you're dying to get a midfielder in and then they're taking you to the cleaners. So let's get our ducks in a row. But in terms of Fabinho, especially if it's Lavia coming in, if Fabinho goes as well, your starting number 6 for me is probably Bajcetic, and that's
the problem.
Not good. I think Fabinho needs to stick around to blood in whatever defensive midfielders whoever we bring in to try and to replace him. I think in Szoboszlai we probably have somebody that can replace what Henderson can do.
Oh, easy.
I'm not sure we have anything that's going to replace what Fabinho at the peak of his powers could do. Have you any concerns around that, Kev?
If it was an either-or situation, I'd keep Henderson and let Fabinho go. At 40 million, I'd let Fabinho go at 40 million. Ideal world, I'd have been Thiago off really early in this window, purely and simply. And it's not about the wages; it's more about the availability and the fact that if we evolve into this 3-2-2-3 system, Thiago doesn't fit. He can't play the 2-6s role next to a Trent. He doesn't have the ability to go both ways, I don't think, anymore. He can't play that advanced 8 role because you ask him to do what Curtis Jones was doing in going in behind and going in around the back for crosses and what have you. I think Jones is actually naturally ahead of him for that system than what Thiago offers you. I think he's a tremendous footballer. Tactically, technically, he's a fantastic watch. But in the way that Klopp is trying to evolve this side, I think he would have been the one I would have, out of the 3, I'd have been comfortable letting go. As it stands at the minute, if Jordan Henderson goes, Fabinho goes, Lavia is not enough in any way, shape, or form because you're literally just hanging the kid out to dry. Lavia would have been fine coming in as a project player, and I'm not sold on Lavia anyway. Never have been. But if he's going to come in, he's going to be the project guy. You know, you learn the system.
Sold if he's coming in to learn the ropes from somebody more senior.
And that's fair enough. But the problem is, by the way, the guys it's like you walk into a job. The guys who are going to show you their job is been sacked. There's a handbook. You're starting tomorrow. There's a clocking machine and the canteen's up there.
Sounds like my work.
But it's no different. That's the chaos. That's the chaos. You're not going to get into the Champions League with chaos. You're just not. The midfield is the engine room of the side. If last year our midfield was fucked, it was all over the show. If it's fucked again next season, we're getting nothing. We'll score goals for fun. We have great forward players, great players going forward. We'll score goals for fun. There's nothing if you let those guys go and you don't adequately replace them, Van Dijk is going to get exposed again next year. Konate is going to be asked to cover 2 positions while he's on the pitch, and he'll get exposed, and then he'll get injured, and then you're down to biscuits for the other 2 centre backs because they can't do the amount of running that's needed for that new system either. This really screws us in so many other ways. In so many ways,
he's dying to say it.
No, but it screws us on the pitch.
He's like that meme from The Simpsons, isn't he?
I think if you're going to look at this, right, Trent plays this hybrid role from right back into centre mid. You could conceivably see a situation where Alexis McAllister is the other deep line playmaker next to Trent in that system. Jones could play ahead of him, or Gakpo could play that 8 role on the left ahead of him. Szoboszlai could play that advanced 8 role on the right-hand side. You can play your 3 forwards and Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz, Jota can come in, and Salah's there as well to rotate around. That's fine. But then you're playing again 3 days later. And then you're playing again 3 days later. And you're going Thursday, Sunday. I mean, you can let these players go and you're freeing up a load of wages. We freed up an absolute bucket load of wages. But George is going to be earning his corn on his 3-month probation period as the director of football for Liverpool Football Club.
The
poor boy has got a job and a half on because Julian Ward and the guy before him have screwed him. And with all of the good work that they did, they were terrible at getting players out at the right time. And we're paying the price for it. But we are where we are, and we have to worry about tomorrow, not yesterday. So
I'm kind of happy with that, though, Kev. I'm kind of happy with it because I know it sounds a bit crazy, and I understand your points. I completely understand your points. It will probably be another transition season, which is painful because we can't afford to do that right now. However, I kind of feel like this guy's come in and he's been like, cut the bullshit. These players are not it. We need more players in. The only way we can get these players in is if we get rid of the players that are dead wood. And the reality of the situation is Henderson isn't good enough to start 30 league games a season. Fabinho, okay, he had a positive end to the season, as we did. However, his form for the last 18 months has been not short of shocking, to be honest with you, other than the last few months of the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if this guy's come in with his gun-go approach, which we're led to believe that's how he operates. And he said to Jurgen, it's up to you now, but my opinion, these have got to go. I don't think there's any smoke without fire, mate. I just feel like either the representatives of the players have been dangled out to Saudi or another way. Maybe Jorg's done the same thing.
Or maybe.
So, Dom, in your opinion, then, if it was a case that we get offers for both, would you be okay with both going, provided, obviously, they're replaced with? Well, I think you need to bring in. So whatever about Lavia, I personally think that you need to bring in. I don't want to call him a marquee signer, but an experienced
player. You need someone like someone of a Rice or a Shoom any level.
If them two go, I believe if them two go, we're shooting ourselves in the foot because for me it's one or the other. No matter what way we look at it, Henderson goes, Fabinho stays, and we put our foot down. Fabinho goes, we get 40 million. Happy days. Henderson stays.
If you had to choose.
If I had to choose, fucking hell. You're going to kill me with these comments. If I was to choose, I'd probably say Henderson to go. And I know that's bedlam because we've already lost the likes of James Milner, leadership-wise. I feel as though we miss Henderson when he doesn't play. But I also kind of think, well, he's not going to be playing anyway, so he's not going to be on the pitch as much as we want him to be. I think if you lose Fabinho, I think you're just exposing that defence once again. I don't think we can afford to do that right now. There isn't a number 6 in that squad that I feel is anywhere near as good as him in that position yet. I think Bajcetic, obviously, he's got a lot of promise. I think Lavia has got potential. I'm not convinced. I haven't seen him enough to say, nailed on 50 million, let's get him in. I feel like that's unnecessary pressure on a kid. If them two do go, I'd like to see a statement signing and a Lavia. I wouldn't like to see just a Lavia and a centre-back. I feel as though we need 2 centre midfielders and a centre-back, in my opinion. Tchouameni, why not? You know, he's been linked before. Klopp clearly likes him. He's not getting the time at Real Madrid. He's never going to with that midfield now. May cut their losses because they want to buy Mbappe. Caicedo is the one for me, though. But I just don't know whether Brighton will do a bit more business with us, considering we pulled the pants down and slapped their ass for McAllister.
I feel that's done to Chelsea already. I think there's some sort of a bit of a deal done there.
I love Caicedo. I just think he's everything that we need in that 6th position. And if Fabinho was to go, I can't think of any better player in the Premier League right now. Okay, hold my hands up, Rice. But Caicedo will be perfect for that position to just come in, slide in that position and do the job. With legs, by the way.
I mean, I've seen a few in the comments talk about, where was this leadership last year? Obviously aimed at Henderson, this loss, that loss, this loss, that loss. I'll be honest, me and Kev still get flashbacks. I did enough of the post-match shows where plenty were saying, when is Van Dijk, Fabinho, Henderson, Salah, Trent, Robbo, got to step up. These are all supposed to be our leaders. The only person who didn't ever get accused of lack of leadership was the goalie. So people say it's blown out of proportion, the whole leadership thing and the off-the-pitch stuff. I do think it is an important part of all clubs, as well as the football ability. And there is an element of, I'm intrigued to see who does step up then, because there's a couple of them going to have to step up to start doing this leadership. And it's easy being the leader when you're winning. When you got to grind out games, and look, people forget the year we won the league and the year we won the Champions League. There's some of those games we had to grind out, and that did take the likes of your Henderson, your Milners, Van Dijk at his peak to just drag players through. Manny, was the perfect example of dragging you through the shit. I'm yet to see who's going to do that. Now listen, maybe that's Soberslide, maybe that's McAllister, maybe that is them.
That was
maybe
my next question.
Maybe they're ready.
If Henderson goes, who's your ideal, or who's heir to the throne? So obviously we have Van Dijk, who was third captain, probably promoted to vice captain with Milner going. I'm not a fan of Van Dijk as captain. I think
has he had a good game?
The captain's armband is heavier on some lads' arms than it is on others, and I think it kind of distracts him from his own game.
I say Salah, by the way.
Yeah. Salah's a good.
I've so many people say.
Robbo
so many people.
Allison.
Well, yeah. So many people say, let's not give it to a forward. All this nonsense. Listen, that guy is the perfect example for any professional footballer and anyone wanting to be a professional footballer. Eats well, drinks well. Look at the shape he's in for the age he's at right now. Okay, he's not old, but he's consistently doing it. He's pulling us out the shit constantly, season in, season out. We're having a poor season. He's still banging 30 goals and enough. I think he's the perfect candidate, to be honest with you.
I mean, to be fair,
especially for the younger players.
Yeah, and I'd say if it's not him, I'd probably go with Alisson, to be honest with you.
The other thing with Salah is he got a shitty on that he wasn't made captain in a dead rubber in the Champions League. That's how much he wants it. He got a shitty on that he didn't get given it.
He's the perfect professional.
I think he's more of a do as I do rather than I do as I say. He'd be leading more so by
Steven Gerrard
than a baller. Yeah,
but maybe that's where you make Robbo vice captain, who could be the Carragher, the gob.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you phrase it, because the way you heard Henderson and Milner, they're quite different. Milner's actually a lot quieter on the pitch than Henderson, but off the pitch, there's the switch. Milner's balking everyone off the pitch, and Henderson's quite more of a good cop. So maybe that's what you need. You need that switch of two opposites. I don't want Alisson to be captain because I'm a bit old school. I'm not a fan of keepers as captains. I don't think
a lot of people like that. But
I just don't think
you have your Robbo, you have your little terrier on the pitch that
because they get up and down. Yeah. Not enough to do with Alisson the person. I'm just not a fan of keepers as captains. I don't think it works. But that's maybe that's a bit traditional.
I always find this argument funny. It's a very English thing. The captain seems to be either the best player on the pitch or whatever. You go continent,
the loudest.
It's everyone. It's everywhere. Nobody bothers about who the captain of a club is. It changes year to year. They're not fussed about it. But if you're going long term, you give it to Trent. If you're looking for someone for the next couple of years, I could get on board with more. I wouldn't be too against that. I'm not that bothered as long as the culture is right. And I think the standards have been set over the last 5-6 years that they know what it takes to win. It's not like, do you remember when James Milner signed? There was no one at the club who knew how to win. And having someone who's at the club who knows how to do it, knows what it takes to get to the top of the hill, that's vital. And that's what you pass on. I'm not too fussed either way. I wouldn't be too bothered if Trent actually did get it. If he's going to evolve into a midfielder, and I think he will over the next 2 years, he will be a centre mid. And I think he'll see his career at the club for good. He knows what it's like to be there from beginning to where he is now. I wouldn't be too fussed about Trent.
My only concern about giving it to Trent is he's currently trying to learn a new position, or will be trying to learn a new position. To then throw the captain's armband on him at the same time, I think maybe is probably a little. I do see him as a future captain, maybe not just right this second.
Yeah,
his head
was
kettled last year as well, wasn't it? So I kind of feel we just want him just to be a footballer and worry about being a captain in a couple of years' time. Do you want to hear some breaking news? It's not Liverpool related, but I just think it's funny. Yeah. Apparently, Everton are in advanced talks to sign Johnny Evans on a free. So, it's not all bad.
He has the game of his life against us every time, so I don't really want that.
You know what? I mean, no matter how bad things are, and things were bad last season, we had a disaster.
No, he's relying on Everton.
Either always rely on Everton and then look at Chelsea.
I've got
it can always be worse. It genuinely can.
Google the Man United away kit. Fuck me, this green and white thing. It's just awful.
We might have some breaking news here from Ashley L. There's Liverpool news too, though, with Kelleher. If anybody wants to shed some light on that.
Wolves apparently want Kelleher because Nottingham Forest are after Jose Sarr.
Yeah, when
Give
you
us
get
40
to fuck
million.
off, keep going and fuck off some more. And when you get to that part, fuck off again. You've had your chance.
How's that homegrown chart looking, Kev?
I've got I was about to move on to it for you, Kev. So look, obviously, with us losing Milner, with us losing Oxlade-Chamberlain, with us losing, quite possibly losing Henderson, that's another homegrown. What does that leave us with, Kev?
At the minute, it leaves us with Trent, Joe Gomez, Stephen Callaghan, Curtis Jones, and I think Tyler Morton qualifies.
Oh, fucking hell.
No, I don't think so.
Tyler Morton's too young.
Sep's gone on loan. Nat Phillips is probably going to go. I think we've got 4. But the problem is, if you only register 4, like last season, when we started the Premier League season, we only registered 23 players. We had to we could only register 17 non-homegrown players because we were 1 short. The problem isn't the amount of homegrown players you've got. It's the amount of non-homegrown players that you're allowed to register is punished by the amount of homegrown players you have. So if you've only got 4, that means it reduces the amount of non-homegrown players that you're allowed to register. Okay, so you gave me a list earlier on of names of players like Paul Glatzel and the likes. There's probably half a dozen. I
think Jack Byrne is another one. Well, Sepp is gone. Jones becomes one this year.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other names, but there was 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah, it's not about the amount of homegrown players you have. For me, it's about the amount of non-homegrown you're allowed to register because of the homegrown players that you have. And I think it hurts you if you don't have the balance right.
If you let Kelleher go, though, that affects your European squad as well.
Yeah. We're already in a situation where if people want to see Ben Doak playing in the Europa League, Ben Doak has to be registered as a non-homegrown player because he hasn't been at the club long enough. You know, he might only be a kid. He might be under 18, but he doesn't qualify to be registered in the B squad. So he has to be named as a non-homegrown player to qualify to play in the Europa League if people want to see him play in the Europa League.
Which we had with Elliot 2 years ago.
Yeah, but it opens up a can of worms that doesn't need to be opened up. I'm certain, I'm 100% certain that the club had a plan for the next 3 windows to evolve this midfield into the midfield that they want to end up in the same way as they did it with the forwards, and they did it at the back, to be fair. I think the plan was there with the midfield. This advent of live football has scuppered that to the nth degree because nobody's foreseen this. You couldn't plan for this. You couldn't forward plan for the eventuality that someone is going to come in and offer you 40 million quid for Fabinho and 20 million for Jordan Henderson and give them obscene amounts of money to go and play in a farmers league in the desert. It's like that concept. If you pitched it to Liverpool 2 years ago, you'd have been laughed out the room. But that's the reality that the clubs have got to deal with. And it's not just Liverpool, by the way. Every club, if the Saudi League can come and take the captain of Liverpool Football Club out of the club, where the club doesn't want to lose him, everyone is a fair target. Everybody in the Premier League is up.
I think Mahrez is off as well, apparently, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah. I'd be slightly more concerned if they came in for a Salah or somebody like that.
Same.
It's like Dom said.
I think that's
Henderson wasn't going to pay well, but in terms of this summer, I get what you're saying, Kev. But it's not like they can have any. If you look at, it's basically the MLS in the 70s, where the older players went to play. I think Pele was close to retirement. George Best was. You've got Benzema going over. Okay, you've got. Yeah, but they're probably not at the start. They're very few at the start. I think the youngest is probably Neves. Is it 24 or 25?
Jota, who went from Celtic.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think he's 22.
Well, you've got Kante. You've got it's all people.
We also got Ruben Neves,
but not necessarily a world class star. I'd be more concerned if they were coming in and targeting an Alisson or a Salah or the world's best players. So I get this whole they're trying to make the league more attractive, but
yeah, but this is only the start.
They're not bringing. Okay, they've got Ronaldo, end of his career. They didn't get Messi. They haven't got all of these, whatever the cards the kids are collecting these days, or the ultimate teams and all that kind of stuff. They don't really have the big names at this moment in time. So to me, a Henderson going or coming in, and I get that he's Liverpool's captain, but he probably would have been a captain from the bench or a captain from the dressing room next season.
Mate, I promise you this. EAFC 24, Saudi League Team of the Season next year is going to be banging. I can tell you that.
Oh, they'll be gassed after 50 minutes. They're all about 40.
I was going to say, you may as well have said that in Dutch, because I haven't a clue what you're talking about. PlayStation and donkeys.
I think this is the thing is, this is just a start. Okay, we saw it with golf. When they came for golf, they did it in dribs and drabs, and then they came hard, and they took all of the best players. I mean, golf is a different situation because, look, there's only 2 promotions really where players can play, and the PGA is the main dog. But they took half the best players from the PGA. They've got boxing locked up. They want F1 locked up. This is an economic plan for Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states for the next 50 years, because the oil revenue that they've been living on for the last 80 years is going to disappear by 2050. And they have to evolve their economies for the next century. They're doing that through sports and entertainment. They want Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region to be the entertainment capital of the world. When you think of sport, you're going to think of Saudi Arabia. And that's what 2050 is going to look like. And this is where it starts with football. They already had a taster of it with the Qatar World Cup. This is just a start for football, you know. And the idea that Europe is the center of the football world, and UEFA are God's gift to everything when it comes to football, and FIFA are the dons of everything. I'm sorry. They'll just replace people but they'll buy FIFA. They'll just
I was going to say, do you foresee a time where they try or attempt a takeover similar to what's happening with golf at the moment? I think they've done it with boxing, the wrestling they've bought over as well, and the WWE. Yeah. Do you foresee a time in the future where they maybe try, and I don't know whether it's possible for them to take over the Premier League. I don't know whether it's possible for them to take over a UEFA or a FIFA, or to set up a rival organization similar to Live, and then they all become bedfellows in some way, shape, or form. Do you foresee that in the future?
I think what you could evolve in the next 20 years is a Super League 2.0, where you have regions represented by the best players in whatever category, like French. Chris will watch it. Chris will watch T20 cricket, and anyone who's watched T20 cricket sees how that has evolved over the last 20 years. And you've got a situation.
It's not as popular, but it's the IPL. It's not the big showcase it used to be. The novelties were off. Yeah, but the T20
football is a different animal.
Yeah, possibly.
Football is a different animal. You've already seen FIFA starting to forward think and forward plan this with the evolution of a 32-team Club World Cup. Now, look, I personally think there's way too much football being played as it is. But FIFA are trying to include more clubs by redistributing more money to different federations across football. And they're using vehicles like the Club World Cup, the World Cup, Continental Conference Championships.
You have to be educated to watch it.
Wow.
That's why Kev doesn't watch it.
But no, look, I just think the way football is going to evolve, I just think you're getting to the stage in football at the minute where fans are pinned to the collar in the UK. Okay, season ticket. You saw the furore last season when Liverpool put their season ticket price up. Just the news that it caused. It went up by a fraction of penny. It went up by pennies.
€11 or £11 or something, was it?
It was nothing. But you look at how much clubs are spending. You look at how much clubs are spending to stay competitive, and the percentage of money comparing to revenue that's going out of the game in wages is unsustainable for the next 30 years. You cannot sustain a club where, like Everton, 89% of your income is going out the door, never to be seen in football again. So basically, Everton Football Club, for example, are running their club on 11% of their revenue that they generate. That's criminal. It's criminal that it's been allowed to happen. And look, we all banter Everton and what have you. Everton are an institution. They're a huge club. The fact that they've been run like this for so long and nobody did anything about it, it's been allowed to happen. It will take a big club to go bust before the Premier League wake up to fucking reality. The football is not an elastic band. It will snap. People's attention span and pockets only stretch so far. And when you're seeing obscenities in transfer fees for Declan Rice, for example, and I think Declan Rice is a very good player, but it's an obscenity that Declan Rice is being transferred from one club to another for 105 million English pounds. It's an obscenity.
So you think if you're an Arsenal fan, you're probably paying £2,000 a year for your season ticket?
More.
Their season tickets are scandalous. I've seen the worst.
I mean, Liverpool's around. I think they're most expensive at Liverpool around £850. Sorry, £870.
I think Fulham's are actually have gone to being one of the most expensive.
Yeah. The new stand.
This can't continue. Look, everyone in the chat, every single person who's in the chat now, and I'm seeing all your comments. First and foremost, we're all football fans. We all love watching football. We pay to watch it. We pay our TV subscriptions. We pay to go to grounds. Some people travel and pay to stay and play in Liverpool for the weekend or go away to games for the weekend. It all costs money, but at the end of the day, we've all got mortgages, we've all got kids, we've all got shit that's going on in our real lives that comes first before our entertainment, and our entertainment is football. If that becomes unsustainable, and it's a choice between your day-to-day spending and your entertainment at the weekend, I know which one's winning, and it ain't the entertainment at the weekend. So football needs to get a reality check, and transfer fees and wages need to be brought under some kind of fucking control, because the fans can't keep paying what we're paying. It's not on. It's not fair.
I know.
It's not sustainable.
You do say that, Kev. The problem you've got is Liverpool now, everybody's raving about the new stand, right? And how much revenue that'll bring in. Well, that's not bringing revenue in from local supporters who are scrounging their way, doing 40 hours a week in a fucking warehouse. That's coming in with all these commercial seats that they're adding, and they know they'll sell them out. Now, the reason the atmosphere is going the way it is at Anfield is because more and more seats are getting sold to commercial. More and more people are coming to the ground that have never been to a football match before and don't actually give a shit about football, but they've been invited on a works to. It's not a working class game anymore. And
no, but at the same time,
it's painful for us.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. As much as that's painful for us, the reality of it is football is outgrowing us. We're working class people. You know, we pride ourselves on our day jobs. We pride ourselves on feeding our families and looking after each other. They don't give a fuck about us. It's a business. They don't care.
Oh, yeah. I suppose you got to look. There was something I watched recently. I can't remember what it was, a podcast or what it was, but they were talking about the American ownership of Liverpool and the fact that FSG look at Liverpool as a business. So I've never been under any illusion that FSG look at Liverpool as a business. And there's many benefits to it, because the benefit to it is the longevity of the club is secure. We're not riddled with debt. We're in a sustainable position where what we earn, we spend. And if you don't earn it, you ain't spending it. You have to be clever in how you get back to where you need to be. Sell well, all this kind of stuff. But I get the other side of it as well. They've expanded the ground to 61,000, and they need to get revenue in to be able to match the wage bills. And it's more so the wage bills than transfer budgets, but I think it's the wage bills of other clubs where players have options. So look, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, you can go really deep into this stuff, and you'd have to really sit down and have a deep think about it. But
can I give you
one of those hospitality seats to buy a good homegrown player from the championship?
Well, listen, we've had this discussion, and what Kev's saying is absolutely bang on. The way you sell seats and the way you increase your revenue is you bring a player in. I know, let's not get into this chat because we could go on about this forever, but you could go on about Jude Bellingham. He sells shirts. Are we way beyond selling shirts now? Does that not make enough money for the club? Because if I'm right in saying we only get 5% of every shirt sold in the shop.
20, I think it is, with the Nike.
It's something daft, isn't it? It's something daft.
Yeah, it's 20.
So is that the reason that we no longer care about signing superstars? I don't know. Because we used to have superstars on our side, the likes of Gerrard, the likes of Alonso, the likes of Torres, the Suarez's and stuff. They sell major shirts around the world. We don't care about that anymore because we know there's not enough money in it because Nike take a hell of a lot of the shit. So what we need to do is we need to put loads of new boxes in the ground, loads of fancy seats, and we need to put men in suits in behind the goal with prawn sandwiches. It's shit.
But we are one of the few clubs though with that. We are one of the few clubs though where that shirt style does actually matter.
Well, it does. It matters to us, of course.
It matters to us.
We're scrounging about after making millions of pounds of profit for the last how many years, and we're putting pennies away and trying to find pennies down a couch to actually sell.
I get that. What I'm saying is, but other clubs, Chelsea, United, they get paid a set fee, say 100 million.
Yeah,
but that's whether they sell 10 shirts or 3 billion. It's a set fee.
That's on what we sell.
So in a way, buying superstars does help us because. Well, shirts should be more on the coffers. From what I can see, I don't think we get as much as I think was implied.
Emmet, you were talking.
I thought it was
20%. You were talking about earlier in the week about our actual wage bill.
I think it's about 185 million. It's the second highest in the league. But I mean, if you look at, and that's one thing that you're looking at Arsenal at the moment, and look, they did well last year. 288,000 a week for Saka. 350 for Havertz, 180 grand a week for Martinelli. There's talk that Saliba's on 200,000. If Rice goes in, he's going to be on 250 at least. They probably made a mistake signing Havertz before him because Rice would be well within his rights. Saying that he wants parity. But with us, if you look at our wage bill, 120, 160, 200, I think 220 is the highest. There's only, I think it's Van Dijk is on 220. I think Thiago might be on 200, but then it drops to 160, 140, 120, and obviously you've got Salah up top. I think the good thing about our wage bill, I think Robbo was only on 64 or 70 as well. The good thing about us is that you look at our wage bill versus others, and you think, oh, no wonder you're not getting players, you're not paying them. But in terms of the bonuses, the performance bonuses, that's what puts us, I think, second highest in the league. Is that it's the one thing that we do around transfers that we probably do absolutely correct. Is this is your base, this is what your performance, this is what you could possibly win or could possibly earn. It's the reason why Manchester United are in the shit, because they're giving Sancho 350 grand or whatever it is a week guaranteed. Win, lose or draw, play, bench, regardless of what he does, that's in his bank account at the end of every week. And I just feel that Arsenal I know they have one of the richest owners in the world, but I still think if any of these signings don't work out, they're in a Manchester United position where who's going to buy them? Who's going to come in and take over those wages? Like it's just not going to happen. Were you going to ask me something about the salary?
Well,
Kev?
All I was going to ask you is, look, next year our bonuses aren't going to be that high. Our bonuses is based on
hopefully they will be if we're fucking winning.
No, next year. What I'm saying is next year when the accounts are released. Or the previous season
will be a profit.
We'll actually see a realistic wage budget as to where the club actually is, because there's no Champions League qualification. We didn't win anything, and I'm pretty sure they don't get a bonus for winning the Charity Shield. So. Or the community, whatever.
I bet we do.
They probably fucking do,
I bet they fucking do.
They probably fucking do.
They probably get
gold. There's a lot of gold bonuses as well. I think one of the most famous ones was Bobby's. They
probably get a bonus just for turning up on the bus on time. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I wonder who got the bonus for the winning the James Milner Memorial Trophy yesterday, because
it wasn't not a draw. See, they said last night, Keita and things said it. They ran two groups.
Szoboszlai
won one.
Szobo looked an absolute animal.
But I think it comes down to how many laps they did, does it not? And I think there's a video where Trent is flabbergasted that Szoboszlai did 22 laps or 21 or 22 laps. So we don't know what Salah did.
So Diaz looks. I think Diaz had a good summer, like he was blowing out his ass after about 2 rounds of that.
Robbo's carrying a bit of timber, I tell you. And in fairness to Henderson looks like he's dropped about a stone.
Henderson looks like Sylvester Stallone and Rocky IV.
Genuinely, yeah.
I had a chat about this. I was thinking, I put it down to Henderson's making up for his ability on the pitch at the moment. He's making himself look unbelievably slim, and he's like Henderson 2.0 because the shape he's in is probably the best I've seen him at Liverpool. And I was thinking that shape was to come back to Liverpool and say, hang on, I'm the captain. I'm the first name on the team sheet. Where it turns out I need to get in shape because I can't go to Saudi if I can't.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the same, Dom. When I saw it, look, it was a couple of weeks ago where there was rumours, and then it was kind of poo-pooed, and then you see him actually releasing the pictures himself last week.
Very un-Henderson-like, weren't
it? He's absolutely like he is shredded, and he had been looking a little bit heavy. The old cycling shorts underneath his shorts were hiding the fact that the shorts were actually like cycling shorts on his legs at one stage last year.
Jonathan makes a point in the chat there as well. Trent looks. They all actually look like they've.
Yeah,
well, that's not all because Robbo is definitely carrying a bit of an hourglass body shape. Let's be honest.
I think he just summers well, doesn't it?
I'd love, honestly, I'd love to see, and I think we all noticed this when we're obviously watching the Reds. When Trent bulked up and he grew this, whatever that thing was hanging off his head, it was like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders when he was running. Yeah. And he did look like he just put too much muscle on. And I know, listen, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a sports scientist. But by looking at him, he just looked a totally different mold of a footballer. Hopefully the leaner version and the short back and sides does him a bit of favour.
He's been doing a lot of individual training. I think there's talk in America he was doing an awful lot of individual training as well.
I wonder
how much people got in his head last year where he's been bullied at the far post. He's not strong enough. He's and he took it upon himself to just bulk up a bit. He probably put on only about half a stone. I'd say he only because these guys are lean as it is. So if you put on half a stone in muscle weight, it's going to show. You're going to notice it.
He looked like he was pulling a caravan at times, didn't he, to be fair? So
yeah. But look, one thing I ask, because look, we only got about 5 minutes. And Keith has often mentioned this, and I watched Trent for England, and I watched England's last 2 games, and when they played him in midfield. And I looked at the games that they were playing, and they were playing against sides who parked the bus. Now, all things being equal, we're going to play probably 10, 15 games a season where sides will park the bus, where they will play 5-4-1. Would you look to start a Trent in midfield? All of you, would you look to start Trent in the midfield 3 and dictate play from the start from there? And maybe put Conor Bradley, because Conor Bradley, I think, will stay, and I think he'll impact the squad this year. Play him as a natural right back and see how it goes. I think eventually he's going to be a midfielder.
I think it depends on the business, if you're with me. It depends on what happens with these two and depending on who we bring in. I think that's when we can answer that question. At the start of the summer, my main question about our business was, where's Trent going to play next season? Once we know that, we'll have an idea of what we're going to go for in the summer. And I kind of feel like Trent's going to evolve into the central midfield regardless of what we all think or what we all want. I'd like to see him in there to unlock the doors like he has been, like he's seen for England. Okay, it was against teams like we could play against on a Sunday. But I'd like to see him in there, of course I would, especially for opening them teams that are just locked and sitting back.
But the way I looked at it is these sides, like, they defend for a living. When they're playing international football, they defend all the time. They're good at it. We've often seen the likes of Germany, even England at times, Italy struggle to break these sides down. They might win the odd game 2-0 because they struggle breaking them down. Some of the passes that he was playing into Saka were ridiculous. And all I had in my head was, if he's there, he's doing that for Mo. And if you're doing that for Mo in over 38 game season, Mo Salah is going to love you, and all you need is someone who's a right back, because at the time we were linked with Pavard, and I remember us talking about Pavard. And if you had a Pavard type player, someone who could slot in as a third centre back, who could support a right back position to be an outlet, and Trent be more permanently in midfield, that kind of way, I look at it. I think it's an absolute no-brainer. And if Henderson goes, I definitely think you're one very good right back away from moving Trent into midfield. I think that's definitely an option. I think we're at the situation at the minute where we could be a case of, let's just fucking rip the plaster off. Let's rip the plaster off and see what the 1st of September looks like. See what George can do and see what the 1st of September looks like and go from there. Because this could be the best thing in the world for us as well.
I wasn't a fan. So even at the start of the summer, I wouldn't have been a fan of him going permanently into midfield, because I think with him cheating into midfield, it gives him an awful lot of space. And I think we've spoken about that on here before. And I think if he goes in there as your orthodox midfielder, he loses that space and he loses that. Well, look, we saw him play against England. He was playing against part-timers. It's going to be difficult to judge it versus Premier League standard. I think I'm even less behind it now with what's happening. Is if we're losing the likes of Fabinho and we're losing Henderson, I would be less likely. I think bringing in the likes of Szoboszlai, I think bringing in the likes of McAllister, I think it gives us the opportunity to return back to a 4-3-3, to go back to Trent playing the way he was playing, but at the same time, from time to time, cheating by going into the midfield as well. But Dom's right. I think it all depends on what happens between now and the start of the season, transfer-wise. Yeah. With that in mind, Chris, so hypothetically speaking, Henderson goes for 20 million. Fabinho goes for 40 million.
Bargain.
Who are you bringing in?
Oh, names?
Yeah.
I would bring in... You probably try and still get someone like Lavia, but I think you have to aim higher and look for someone like... Someone like... Is that your phone?
No.
It's not mine. Mine's miles away. Problem is, I don't know who's the good number 6 to bring in, because the ones you'd want would be someone like
There's not many.
Yeah. Well, the one you want is Shoemeni, but he's at Real Madrid, or hijack Declan Rice, but that's not going to happen, or Caicedo, but he's going to Chelsea. Kimmich, if he would leave Bayern, maybe that'd be a bit of an interesting one.
How old is he now?
26.
26?
26.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be an ideal one.
Are they selling Kimmich though?
But again,
they want Harry Kane.
Yeah, so they've got to finance it. Something like that. But I think it's going to be that level of player. If you get rid of Henderson and a Fabinho, for a starting 6, it's got to be a Kimmich level player.
I agree with you. I don't think Lavia and Thuram coming in replace Fabinho.
It wouldn't shock me if Grabenberch comes back up,
Yeah. But again, it's another project which, look, he could work out. If it works out,
I'm not sure.
We'll look great.
I think he's a top proven player. I just don't think he's had the chance at Bayern Munich. I think we were linked with him to come in and play ahead of Fabinho, and a lot of people were saying, let's get Fabinho out. Now Fabinho's going, everyone's sort of like, shit, what are we going to do?
Keep him in.
I know.
It's so fickle football, isn't it?
It's also like, we can all talk the games. It's when it happens, we're like, oh, hang on, this got quite...
I was thinking Henderson, all right, we'll get him out the door. We make a bit of money.
Kimmich is 28, so...
All this stuff, and then... When they put the bid in for Henderson, I thought, I don't like this.
But the other thing we can't lose sight of, even if we brought, say it's Kimmich and Lavia, which I'll be honest, I've probably spent about 120 million there, already getting 60. You still need a centre-back, minimum. And if I'm honest, if we want to do the Trent in midfield a lot more, we need a more proven right-back. Conor Bradley could be that in years to come. The best thing for Conor Bradley is to go on a higher level low, because we saw what the Bolton thing did for him. I think he still needs another one.
I have a curveball.
Go on.
Keep Fabinho. and use him in a tree at the back, or to move to a tree. He played right back for Monaco. He's played right back for Brazil.
That's flashbacks of the old COVID season, that though, isn't it?
Yeah,
he's played right back.
Can I just throw in here? My ideal summer, if them two go, is Levi Colwill, the left centre back from Chelsea. I think we will be able to tempt their hand. I think it's money there to be made, homegrown, English.
Yeah.
I think you bring him in. I think you bring the guy from Inter, Barella. He's one of my favourite players in world football. I would love to see him in the centre of midfield. And I'd bring Lavia in, and I'd say to Lavia, okay, you can develop. You can bring in Barella in. You can move Trent inside whenever you feel like. But I think at the moment we're losing the ball. I think when we keep going on about the midfield as much as we're losing players, when our centre back from Virgil, from Konate, the drop off is ridiculous. We also need to make sure we've got our eye on the ball and bring a centre back in who's capable to step in or play.
The question is though, if Colwell doesn't happen, which I'm not fully convinced it will, because
I think he's part of the deal.
I think it's part of the deal with Chelsea for Casado. So, who is the homegrown option? I think the centre back's going to be a homegrown option. Who are the other options we can look at? The only one I can think of is the lad from Palace.
Mark Guehi.
Guehi or Kilman from Wolves. They're the only two I can think of.
The other guy has dropped off the radar altogether. Aston Villa, Konsa. Is he
Konsa
as well?
Yeah,
Konsa.
Yeah.
And they've just brought in Pal Torres. Tomorrow is another one. I definitely do what I could to get Levi Colwill in. I was really impressed with him in the Euros. Amrabat will be a 6 I would look to try and do if you're looking to get a dog in midfield who's going to try and press and win the ball back and just turn ball over and get it going again. That's exactly what he is. He's an absolute dog of a player that you wouldn't want to play against. And that's what you want. You want someone who's going to get around the pitch and engage a press high up and win it back and get you going again.
That's probably a good show in terms of experience because he does have an awful lot of experience.
He's not that old either. He's not that old.
No, but I mean, in terms of football, I think he's played the position. He's played it for a long time.
Yeah, he knows it inside.
I think if you're losing your Fabinho, he's not the worst player in the world for Lavia to kind of.
I'd rather go and get Gravenberch over Lavia, but I understand the argument for Lavia because down the road he's going to be homegrown. But at the same time, the way I look at Lavia is if he was as good as people think he is, Man City would have just activated the clause. Now
they can activate it, but he could also say, "Well, I'm not signing because you've got fucking Calvin Phillips ahead of me. You've got Rodri ahead of me."
Yeah.
You know,
but that's what I mean. What I'm saying is, Man City could have arranged it. I mean, Calvin Phillips is a tradable player. Calvin Phillips, they could engineer a situation where they sell Calvin Phillips. Don't need Calvin Phillips.
I thought he was going to go. I thought if they were serious about Rice, I thought that would have been ideal to offer.
That would have been the first one out the door. I mean, it's looking like Walker Peters not Walker Peters. Ward-Prowse is more likely going to go to West Ham. Palhinha is another one who's probably going to go to West Ham. He'd be an ideal stopgap, Palhinha, if you're looking for someone to get you over. This is one thing that Liverpool have gone away from, is players to get you over a hump for 2 or 3 years. You know, we don't have...
Shaqiri was the last one we got.
Yeah, that's what I mean about Amrabat.
But Shaq was cheap. Shaq was a cheap option. But what I'm saying, we don't have to always ignore these kind of players, these Palhinha players, because they're 28. When everyone looks to, who's the next up-and-coming kid? At some point, you're going to have to say, look, you need someone who knows what they're fucking doing.
I used to love every year when Rafa bought a right back. They only had the last of the year, just some random right back every year. You're just like, brilliant.
Clavan was the best stopgap.
Cromkamp
he had 6 months when the FA Cup and they fucked him off again. That was it.
Wait. What happened to Philip Degan? Fucking hell.
I don't think he'd never recovered from his debut where all you heard was Carragher shouting his name every 3 seconds. Get back.
I think the only thing that makes me really nervous, right, is by this time normally in the summer, I know what the squad is going to look like at the end of the summer. More or less. You might get an incoming or an outgoing, but genuinely, for the last 5 years, you've under Klopp's tenure anyway, you know what you're getting. This is the first summer that I can remember in a long, long time that I haven't a fucking clue what the squad's going to be.
Hey, Kev is all over the place. Just for
I haven't a fucking
Kev is all
clue.
over the place.
I'm like
normally,
this.
normally the coolest man in the room, and he is all over the camp.
I am, yeah. And I'm normally the voice of reason when I'm chatting with Chris. I'm like, calm down, it's going to be grand.
There's a shout.
I am,
we need a Vegard Hegem. Jump in. Brilliant. I love Vegard Hegem.
Well, the thing is, we were going to talk about, we were going to look tonight back, because me and Chris normally do a show once a week where we look back at games and stuff.
You've read me day. I was looking forward to this.
We were going to be talking about the Club World Cup and the periods going into it and the Leicester game after it. That's something because it was actually a guy in the chat, Thor, who's always in the chat, asked us to look at this because when you think back at it, it was fucking nuts.
We had Henderson a centre back.
What the league did to us at that time. Was fucking ridiculous.
Because we had to play the kids, didn't we? In
Villa.
I remember this because I took my daughter to her first of the game, which is the 5-5 against Arsenal, and then I didn't know this. And the club there goes, "What the league better decide we're going to do because we'll be outside the world when the quarterfinals on." And they just left it, and they just played a lot of 18-year-olds against Villa.
It's one of the two trophies every season that happens every season. Nobody gives a flying fuck about it, but it's the one game that you desperately want to be in. You want to be in the Club World Cup final. You want to be in the Super Cup final. And if people say they don't cut, they fucking do. Because to get there, you've got to win a Champions League. You've got to win an FA Cup. And they're the games you want to be involved in. And the fact that we went there under the cloud that we went in under, and everyone thought we were going to fucking fall apart when we come back, and we twat Leicester. Absolutely twat Leicester.
Trent's best performance in a Liverpool shirt.
Yeah. And that was when we had Peak Fabinho out injured, and a rarity, Genie was injured, which fucking never happened. So, because I'm sure for one of the games, the midfield for one of the games was Ox, Keita, and Lallana. I think Lallana played 6 in the semi-final, which is, when you hear that, that's the most mad midfield.
My best mate there, Kev, Lallana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've seen that today. I've seen that, yeah.
Randomly just commented on me podcast before saying keep it going, and I was like, holy shit.
Did you then mess you back going, fans coming on?
Yeah, he said, I did, and I can show you the message he put when I'm done with Brighton.
There you go.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what.
Was there not reports last week that he was done with Brighton? Does he not have a bad injury or
he's back?
Lallana, was he back?
Yeah.
So look, anybody that has any questions over the validity of the Club World Cup, just ring up a Brazilian fan and tell them that it means nothing.
Yeah.
They were fucking rage when they got beaten that
You look at Bobby's reaction to scoring that goal.
It's massive everything. Over there.
It's huge. And it's only about putting one up Europe. That's all it is for them. Well,
look at the Rafinha. Do you remember Rafinha? He spent half the game trying to break Manny's leg until Robbo took him out.
When you can say that you're the world champions of the club teams, it should mean more. When we got that trophy and we could turn around and say, well, European and world champions, there's nothing better than that. Whether it's a big trophy or not, you have won everything. So it's a big to everyone else, isn't it?
But also, exactly, as a Liverpool fan, this day and age, how often do you get to say you've seen the first of something? You can say, "Oh, I remember." The first European Cup I remember was 2005, but we won 4 before that. We're the first time we saw the first time it ever been won in the club's history.
Yeah,
and those things get overlooked because
let's give Jonathan a shout. Jonathan said there, City are in the Club World Cup. It means nothing this year. You bang on the money, Jonathan. Unless Liverpool are in it, we don't give a fuck, and it means
exactly,
nothing.
Jonathan. You're dead right, son.
Well, look, we're over the hour, an hour and 10 minutes there. Last question before we go, Chris. I'll start with you.
Thanks.
Henderson, Fabinho are both. What's going to happen?
I think
in terms of leaving.
I think they both go. If any of them's going to stay, it'll be Henderson, but I think they're both going.
Kev?
I think there's a fair chance we're doing a show tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I think they both go.
I think Fabinho goes first.
Dom?
I think it'll be quick because I think that once the players get on that plane to go to the preseason training camp in Germany, I think they'll all be told that's it. Once you get on this plane, that's it. There's no more messing about. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen quick, and I think both will go. I have a feeling they're going to rip the plaster off and let the cards fall where they may.
What we hope is it gets announced and we've got the replacement already lined up. So
I'm hoping.
Kev, thanks for delaying me. Give me some more thinking time there. I think Henderson is the only one that goes. I do. I don't think he'll let two go. Something tells me he won't. I feel like the Fabinho thing is quite a little bit of an unsettling tactic for Liverpool. It wouldn't surprise me if there's absolutely no truth in it at all. Whereas Henderson, I kind of feel like that isn't enough done. So
there seems to be more noise about Fabinho being done.
I said it earlier on as well. I think I'm with them. I think Henderson goes. This is not me wishing him out the door or anything like it. I don't think he owes us nothing. He's been probably the best captain since. Jeez, I shouldn't have started that sentence until I knew the end of it. Probably Hansen. I would say probably Alan Hansen in terms of.
That's a show in
itself. No. I'm not saying.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Clip that, Gav. Clip that, Gav.
No, you can clip it. Clip it all you want. I mean, in terms of success, overseeing success.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably since Alan Hansen. Yeah, I think Henderson goes. I think, like I said earlier on, Fabinho is probably it's a bit too far in terms of what we're trying to do here. I think we need him to stay behind for a year. I see him probably going next year, possibly even in January.
I don't think the value's there if he stays another year. I think if he's going to go, it's going to be this summer.
That's why I think Fabinho goes.
This is Fabinho.
Yeah.
One name I forgot to mention. Yeah, one name I forgot to mention would be interesting to try to see if we could get would be Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa.
Just signed a new deal, hasn't he?
I don't give a flying fuck. That's an FSG problem. That's not my problem.
I love your negotiating tactic, Kev. We're not selling. I don't give a fuck.
Kev's the bomb squad with the suitcase. He'll go in and sort it out.
Do you know what? This with me and Kevin have flipped because Kev's always calmed me down. He's basically goes, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" And I'm going like, "Mate, I grew up like in the Houllier era. It's like I was used to this 7 in, 7 outside. I'm loving the actual. What the fuck's gonna happen? I don't know. It's brilliant. I actually think
back then there was no social media. There was no YouTube channels. There was nothing. And I had a life. I was working and fucking enjoying my kids and everything like that. Now it's like YouTube and social media and 24/7. You're connected to everything. It's like,
go on.
I just
embrace it.
I'm literally looking at Twitter. Has Joyce tweeted yet? You know, I'm 51 years of age there.
Kev, just put on a note.
Glenn Parsons, Hendo out, Clint Dempsey in.
Oh,
yeah. Some of those days.
You fucking ass, Glenn.
And then we got an apology letter. Do you remember that? Do you remember the open letter saying, sorry, we didn't sign a forward? Brilliant.
Well, look, Chris and Kev, have you any shows coming up? So you were supposed to do a show tonight.
Nah, nothing for the rest of the week. I don't think.
Have you given a rain check? Is there next week got the same show?
Yeah, we'll do it next week. Unless we sign another 6 players, then we might do something else. Who knows?
Yeah. Dom, have you any shows coming up?
Yes, so good time actually. Season 3 of the Road End podcast starts. What day are we on? Thursday? Starts tomorrow, 6 a.m. First episode is with Peter Scarf, who is the chairman of the Hillsborough Survivors Supporters Alliance. And we pretty much go into detail about, obviously, the things that went on, about trying to educate people who pretty much just slander us week in, week out, and also about the FA Cup shirt, things like that. So it's a big day for me tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you, because my dad was there that day, my uncle was there that day, and I never had the conversation with my dad about it. He's never spoke to me about it. It's something that we all need to know about. It's something we need to educate each other about, and it's something that we shouldn't shy away from because it can't happen again in football. So fingers crossed for tomorrow, and I'm just hoping it goes well because it's obviously a touchy subject, and I'm super nervous about it, if I'm being honest.
Well, look, from me, myself, Kev, and Chris, and everybody else at the Daytrippers, we all hope it goes really well for you.
Cheers,
We
man.
know well.
Chris, anything else from you?
The women have signed 3 players. That's going well. On the other side of Liverpool, that's going swimmingly. That's going all right.
And who are they? Flint is one.
Flint striker, a new lady called Maya, whose surname I can't remember, who's another young striker / wide player. I was signed a Scottish centre back. So all good. They probably still need another 2 or 3. So fingers crossed.
Stuff. Kev, anything else from you?
No, nothing. Just remember, please hit the like button. Subscribe. Everyone who's in the chat is subscribed, but if people who are watching it back, throw in the comments for myself and Chris if there's any games or periods in Liverpool's history from probably anything from probably the early 80s right through to today. Any games that you would have thought that are pivotal to how a season went or a campaign went or a manager's tenure went. Throw them in the comments if there's something that you guys want to talk about or reminisce about, and just let us know and we'll talk about it.
I have a couple.
Go on.
Yeah, go on.
I think they were both FA Cup semi-finals. Liverpool Portsmouth and Liverpool Crystal Palace.
The Crystal Palace one, yeah.
I think Pardew got the winner in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, we're trying to talk about happy memories. We're trying to do happy
memories. I know. They're great games.
Jesus Christ.
They are great games.
They were great games. The Palace one was a great game.
This is almost about when I did shows about runs to European Cup finals.
Did you do the 3-3 with United January '94? Have you done that one yet?
No, was that for that one?
That's another cracker.
Emmet's right in your script here.
Just don't ask me.
There is plenty out there.
I've a head like a sieve, so don't ask me for. I have the video downstairs. There's like a 3-all. I remember exactly where I was watching it. It was in my granny's, and they're all United fans down there.
I had to go by Owen Burke. 2-1 against Villa and the tight one in
season. I was on my way back from Inverness. I was been over at a basketball tournament. My nephew was playing the basketball tournament over in Inverness, and we flew from Belfast, and I was trying to listen to it on the radio on my phone all the way, and it kept coming in and out. And literally got to the last couple of minutes and said, fuck it anyway. That's like whatever. We've lost that or we've drawn that or whatever. And then it was only when we got into somewhere where there was a reception, I was like, no, fucking way they won. Yeah, so
I was watching it on a stream at my in-laws, and I turned my phone on, and my phone buzzed 2-1. Man, I was like, no, fuck, it's gone in.
just on, I think Glenn Parsons has put a message in there about Dele Alli. I mean, I won't discuss this on my podcast because it's obviously not LFC related, but I think if we dive in and just have a minute on that, I personally wish him all the best from everyone, and we all probably do as well. However, not against us, but in his personal life, of course, I wish him all the best, because listening to that story today was absolutely heartbreaking. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, no matter who they play for. He's a guy at the end of the day. He's a normal lad by the looks of it, and his football career had so much promise. I hope he reaches that level, just not with Everton.
Yeah,
I think he's a Liverpool fan, isn't he? So
yeah.
I've only seen
it's gut wrenching listening to it. It's a tough. I felt uncomfortable. You could even see by Neville. Neville was almost moved to tears. I think at one stage he was. It's an absolute, like the absolute balls that he has to come out and actually speak about it. It is important. We're all lads here, and probably guilty of not talking in times where we've probably felt a bit down and stuff like that. For somebody to come out and to try and break that stigma, I think he's a bigger man than me, and anybody that's met me knows that I'm a fairly big man.
Big boy. That's Chris.
I can attest to that in some ways.
I wasn't talking about that.
So that's between us. Sorry, that's between us, isn't it?
Well, just when we're trying to be serious here, Chris. But look, I would love. He was absolutely almost unplayable a couple of seasons ago. So it'd be great to see him to get back to that as well. Hopefully, now that he's probably exercised some of his demons by going and speaking to somebody, maybe that's, like you said, Trent looked like he was playing with all the weight of the world on his shoulders last year. That's probably what's happened with Dele Alli as well. So we'd all wish him
No, I don't know if Dele Alli can ever get back to being the football player that he was and the promise that he showed. I just hope to God that Dele Alli, when he wakes up tomorrow morning, is relaxed, calm, and
feels loved.
I think what Dele Alli might find is
Kev is frozen.
Whether people, and this probably wasn't his intention, to a point it probably was, but is there'll be probably unfortunate people in a similar situation of what he's been through, and sometimes that might be the jolt. But it might be that person, that might be the jolt that they need going, do you know, I need to talk about that. And that's sometimes all it needs. Even if it's only one person, it does that too. That's kind of the key message. Because, listen, blokes were crap at talking about stuff like this anyway. You know, that's why, you know, it's very brave to do what he did. Especially the world we're in, because he knows the silliness that comes on the social media world, unfortunately. But listen, wish him all the best. You know, hopefully it goes well for him.
Yeah. And I think from listening to it, I think it was only stumbled across. It wasn't something that he had gone to speak about initially. It was, I think he was seeking help with the sleeping pills, and it's from speaking to somebody, all of this just came pouring out. So Kev, you froze there while you were mid-sentence.
Yeah, look, I mean, football is one thing, sport is one thing, but I know what it's like dealing with stuff that happens in real life, and having a network of people that you can pick up a phone to and or drop a text, anything like that. You never know when you're going to need someone until you need someone, but it's not weakness to pick up the phone and say, look, I'm not okay, or I need a chat, or let's go for a pint, or whatever. You know, and I think I could safely speak for everyone. All of our DMs and social media are open, and they're open for a reason, because we never know when that dark moment is going to be there, that someone needs to reach out and say, look, XYZ has happened, or whatever. The fact that Dele Alli stumbled across this conversation in a therapy session, and he felt comfortable in his own skin to come out to Gary Neville and probably arguably one of the biggest podcasts going, knowing that it's going to be picked up globally, takes some set of cojones.
Yeah.
The fact that you see the reaction on social media, and social media is a vitriolic, horrible place at times. I haven't seen one negative comment. I haven't seen one person from any club, any fan of any club, give him absolutely nothing but respect. And we just hope that whatever he does in football, he does. But I just hope that he gets on with the rest of his life and he's healthy and happy and he can just get on with things. That's all you can ever hope for, is that he goes to sleep at night happy and he wakes up in the morning with carefree. That's all you can ever hope for.
Exactly.
Well said, Kev, and a nice way to finish off. Thanks, Dom, for joining us again. Like I said, twice this week. Always great to have you on. Kev, good to see you again. And Chris, I'll be over in Liverpool in mid-April or mid-August if you.
I'll be there ready for you.
Actually, Dom, I think Gav said he's going to meet you for a point. So
no, my problem is
not the point.
No,
it's never one, is it?
Hey, by the way, Emmet and Big Spoon.
Good stuff. Listen, thanks to everybody else in the chat as well. You've all, as always, been excellent. Popping in the comments in. This was No Transfer Knowledge. We're finishing it with same amount of knowledge as we started it, probably none. So join us again. Stick, like Kev said, press like, subscribe, click the bell icon for when we next have a show on. And we'll talk to you again very soon. Good night. That's supposed to end.